Yep, thank you. So welcome everyone to this special council meeting on Wednesday, the 5th of July, 2023. We gather today to duly and faithfully carry out our duties to the best of our judgment and ability for the advancement of this district and the benefit of all of our community and fellow citizens. The Coorong District Council members acknowledge and pay respect to the traditional custodians of the land and waters, the Ngarrindjeri people, whose ancestral lands are on which we meet today. We acknowledge the deep feelings of attachment, relationship of Aboriginal people, the country, and pay our respects to elders past and present. We also extend that respect to all First Nations people, particularly in this NAIDOC week. Thank you, everyone. Councillors, this is a special meeting for the purpose of adopting the budget and its associated requirements. Apologies, I have none, but I would note that Councillor Rountree signifies she would probably be a late arrival, so we'll pick that up when she gets here. Item 2, adoption of the annual business plan and budget. I might just say a few words at the start. And this is after several years of quite low increases in money or rate increases to council, and following the advice from council's long-term financial plan, asset management plans, and the audit and risk committee, council is asking the ratepayers for a significant revenue increase in 2023-24 to cover continually increasing operational costs and a substantial capital program. The newly elected council has spent the last 5 months working with staff and refining the 23-24 annual business plan and budget as the only realistic way forward for the district. While this increase this year is substantial, putting off this increase can only lead to continual higher rate increases in years to come in order to achieve the goals set by council's long-term financial plan. Additional pressures have been applied by other external bodies, and this includes the Emergency Services Commission of South Australia, who now has some financial oversight over us. And this means that council has less room to defer raising enough revenue than previously. Following public consultation on the draft plan and budget, further reductions made in operational expenditure bring us to a budget deficit proposed for today of $522,000. It is, however, pleasing to note that there is an ongoing vibrancy from our rural communities, and that's our output from primary production. And we look forward to seeing some substantial growth in our townships in the near future. The last thing I might say is I'd very much like to thank the staff, particularly the finance staff, some in the room today, for the reworking of the figures they've had to do, particularly in the last week or two. It's been a lot of pressure applied to them to get that information in order for today's agenda. I thank them publicly now for all the work they've done in getting it to a point where council can adopt a budget today. This adoption of the 23-24 annual business plan, there is a recommendation there. Someone better move it. Councillor Bland. Thank you. You're moving and this is the pursuant to sections 123(6) of the Local Government Act 1999 and regulations 6 and 7 of the Local Government Financial Management Regulations 2011, council adopts the 23-24 annual business plan and budget as presented. Is there a seconder? Councillor Maidment, thank you. Councillor Bland, do you want to speak to it?
No,
reserve right. Councillor Maidment?
No, thank you, Mayor.
Anyone else want to speak to the then? Councillor Qualman?
Mr. Mayor, thank you. I actually have a question.
Yes.
Page 27 on the capital expenditure of the ABP. When we went out for consultation, we had Granites Road written in the water line there where it says Stormwater Renewal Program 65. It used to have Granites Road. Why isn't Granites Road back in there? Please.
Just looking that up, councillor. Better not have just. Is it not in the agenda item when it was the intent that it is?
It's the intent. Sorry, we'll just put that. We'll change that.
All right. We'll take that as we're putting it back. If it hasn't gone, but it's not listed as going back in. Still in, councillor. Councillor Rountree.
being late, Mayor.
Right, you're only a late arrival.
But I was 2 hours early the other day, so remember that. I haven't got my screen up, so I'm just going to have to remember because I'm waiting for my computer to load up. But one of the things I had raised was wanting to see in the annual business plan, the fixed charge listed separately instead of included. Now, I know I got confirmation from the CEO that it is on our rates notice separated out. The purposes of comparing year to year, can we not just put that figure in as a fixed charge like it has been every other time? I don't understand why we can't do it. And I've sort of raised it quite a few times. I think it would be useful to see it.
Is it, sorry, CEO will have a answer.
If the new system doesn't separate out, as I've explained before,
Right.
this new system doesn't separate it out. It is in the papers that you get as part of your budget. You'll see a A3 or it's actually an A4 for your pack that shows where that is shown, but it's not, nothing changes, nothing has changed with the fixed charge.
I understand that, which is why I don't see why we just can't put 679 in that line right next to it for the 23-24 financial year in the imagery. If it doesn't change and we get it in reports and
No, it's in the asterisk, council. It's actually there.
I know, and it's in the asterisk too. So why not just put it in there?
System doesn't allow it.
But it's not, this is a diagram that's typed, Mayor. This is typed up and made into a diagram. It's not coming from a system. It could easily just be put in there. If the
If you got
figure is
support of the
known.
floor around this or not?
Pardon?
See if you got the support of the floor.
Oh, absolutely. If anyone, maybe I'm floating in my own boat here, but I think it's important to have it in there.
Through Mr. Mayor, I've asked for the same thing.
Well, I'm seeing what the difference will be if it's listed one way or the other. That's what I'm, what two councillors want it. It'll be listed. What's the rest of the councillors think? This is a problem? No, on this subject, I'm going to finish this subject. Does anyone else support separation of the fixed charge still in the writing?
It's just through Mayor, it's just in the diagram. We list it in the year, previous year, financial year's got 679 written there. And I know then we go to 23-24 and we don't put the number in. It's really the 150 times by the number of rateable properties. It's an easy sum. So just if we just put it in there and take it,
Councillor-
it actually makes the comparison of the rates closer and lists it where it should be. It's like if we know the number, it's got an asterisk, it's going to come to us in all our reports. What I'm not getting is why we can't see it in this document. And is there a reason why we can't see it in this document that I'm not aware of?
Can I just ask the rates officer to come forward to a mic, please? To share bills, I think, by the look of it, or. And just reasoning behind why it's listed like this, Leanne, please.
Yeah, so the fixed charge across all the categories where you've got contiguous land and single farm enterprise, that then skews the total figure. So I can't just go rateable properties times by 150 equals this amount of money, because I then have to take into consideration all of the adjoining land that is associated with each of those categories. And the synergy system doesn't allow me, like it would be a very manual task to have to do that. If it's required, it can be done, but it's a very manual task to be able to do it.
So through you, Mayor, we were just told that we are going to get this information in reports. How are we getting it in reports and everything else?
Because it's individual to the rate pay. The saying for you is that to divide it up to the degree you want
Yes.
would be a assessment by assessment to look at it, because of the amount is there. The amount is more the whole that's important for this budget process at the top level, not the assessment by assessment. We know that there's 600 plus in terms of fixed charges, and that's fixed charges. It doesn't change. It doesn't add, in my view, add value to the budget papers, because you all know what the figures are.
Obviously, I feel it does add value to the budget papers through you, Mayor. I feel like we were able to get it last time.
Now it's going to add value in the future. If you wish, councillor, to have this included in the future, I'll invite you to move a motion with notice before the next ordinary meeting around this subject.
Well, then I will be doing that.
I don't think we should hold up this meeting today around this.
And I'm
that's a
sad we have to
material-
hold up this meeting. Put it up so many times.
So councillor, as you know, we can raise things individually until there's a group decision. I'm not sensing in this chamber right now be a change to today's agenda or process. That's why I think that would be the best way to raise it in the future, not today.
Are we sure if there's no support to do it, then that's.
Well, I
fair
haven't
enough.
sensed it in the chamber yet. I'm going to councillor Arthur's question.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I sent a question through to get some clarification on the actual salaries. We've got a little bit of a difference set up here, but I do notice even now, we still haven't got the vehicle allowance put in for the people that get paid as part of their contract or whatever for the vehicle, which is over $100,000. So,
I don't
Where
think
is
that
that-
figure's correct,
where-
councillor.
sorry,
I don't believe that figure's correct.
well,
When I asked the
Mr.
CEO,
Mayor, just look at the salaries and
Hmm.
on the website and add them up, and it's over 100. It's
is
$107,000.
it separated in that document, does it?
Yes, yes.
I asked the CEO
Well,
to
no,
address this.
three of them have
I just don't mention.
vehicle allowance plus phone. The other three
Right.
are just vehicle.
Just to get this,
for it.
so that's different. If there's only
but
3 or 6. Now get the
the-
CEO to address the issue, please.
Through you, Mayor, the vehicle allowance as part of your policy, councillor, is set out on who gets paid and when and how much. And that, I think in the answer to one of the questions about the salary, I answered that. So there was nothing more to say on that subject from my point of view. I don't quite know what you're looking for.
Well, I'm just wondering where it is. So we got
It's
the
part
base,
of the
base
salary, not-
salary, leave loading,
Hmm.
long service provision, income
Hmm.
protection, superannuation, work cover. But there's no figure there for the rest.
Part of the salary package, it's not in addition.
Is it part of the salary package? I think this will have to some.
Well, I'm trying to tell you, being public, it's part of the salary package, council.
So being paid on the MOA award,
There is no MOA award.
well,
Our- our
three
staff-
aren't, but all the others are. The
through you,
MOA.
Mayor, staff are paid through the AWU award or the ASU award.
We'll have to go back and have a look at the thing again, because it says MOA.
Yeah.
Okay.
The others?
The other thing is, the 200, or the Tindar Aerodrome, it seems to be in, it's out, it's not in.
No.
It's
said it's
in,
out,
it's in,
now it's in.
councillor. It's in at 425,000. It's one figure I can remember clearly in my head as
Yeah, yeah,
capital
yeah.
expense.
But it's listed in here now.
It wasn't never out, councillor.
No.
Mayor.
Yeah, I just thought it was discussed that it would be out because of the fact that it probably wouldn't be done till 24,
Yeah, no, it
25.
was discussed if it was possible to defer it. But at this stage, we don't feel we need to defer it. That's where the discussion went. We inquired around that. And my understanding is if we needed to, we could. But since it's a capital item, it's staying in at this stage.
Thank you.
Right, I'm still open to questions or people speaking for or against the motion.
I have another question, just
Yep.
on the similar one. Is the fixed charge subject to CPI?
The fixed charge is fixed by you, councillor, it's $150.
Yes, is it
Oh.
changed every year by CPI?
No, that's not part of the rate policy.
Right.
Clarity, Mr.
You
Mayor.
sort of indicated, councillor Peach.
The fixed charge is still subject to the percentage increase in the overall rates as part of the general rate, but the charge itself does not increase. And that is something that councillors didn't seem to understand, myself included, prior to this.
Probably why it's called fixed charge. But council could elect to increase it. If you look at the policy we adopted 3 or 4 years ago to change this process back, we brought it back to $150 from over 300 from memory.
350.
So that would be a debate to have in the future for next year's budget if you wish to start increasing it again. At this stage, it's $150 per assessment. Are there any other questions? On a debate, we can move into a debate if you wish.
I'm still going through it.
No other questions? Councillor Bland, you'll get to close or speak to it in close.
I will close. It would appear. My apologies. I will consider it closed. It would appear that everyone's had an opportunity to speak and there is some work to do into the next budget if we want to make changes. And I think, as you've indicated, Granite Road's in it, so I think I consider it closed.
Thank you. So the motion, as is the recommendation, councillors, I don't propose to read it again. I put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? Carried unanimously. Move to the next item. Number 4, I think it is. Is that right, Ashley? I haven't jumped one or anything yet.
Yes. Budget. 3.
Done. I've got it mixed up. 3, adoption of the 23-24 budget. Number 3, ensuring the provisions of the section 1237 of the Local Government Act 1999 and Regulation 7 of the Local Government Financial Management Regulations 2011, financial budget for the financial year ended 30th of June 2024, resulting in an estimated operating deficit of 522,000, be adopted as disclosed in the annual business plan and the 23-24 budget booklet in respect of pages 1 to 6. The notes are provided as information only. So I move that way, please. Don't rush me.
So moved, Mr Mayor.
Catching up.
Councillor Peach, thank you. Is there a seconder? Councillor Qualman. Councillor Peach, you want to speak to it?
Do not wish to at this stage, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Qualman. Anyone else wish to speak for or against the motion?
I just, I just haven't had a chance to even read half of this. I'm sorry.
Hasn't
without
changed
data.
substantially, only what we decided at the workshop last week. There no other considered changes, is why we felt we didn't need to take it back to any public consultation. Anyone else wish to speak?
Can I just ask one question?
Question?
Regarding councillor Roundtree's email regarding the CWMS scheme, I would have been of the same opinion that the extra expenditure would come out of the reserve fund rather than as an expense against this financial year. Why isn't that? That's what a reserve fund's there for, is to use when you're going to do a little bit extra work on what is required.
Through you, Mayor, and I'll look at the finance of. The CWMS has been added to the charges. It will, and the answer to Councillor Roundtree's question I said to her the other day is yes and no. You still got to account for the position in salary. It may end up as out of the reserve, but it's still a operational expense for the year. And remembering that the reserves that we have are non-cash reserves, it's really an identification of amount of money that needs to be spent at any time against that particular asset class.
And through you, man, we were told then at the last meeting that the position that was being considered would be funded out of the CWMS, which is why I sent the email saying it looked like we could have a bigger saving than what we had originally thought, which then you have responded to. When you say that what would be an instance where we wouldn't pay for this person out of this system? What would create that situation?
It could, but remembering it is a non-cash reserve. It is just an identification of money every year. There is no actual bank account that says
Sure.
CWMS.
But from an accounting perspective, you could then take off that side, which wouldn't then affect our
Yeah,
operating.
but it's still an operational expense in that you pay that person a salary, and then the money at some point, depending on what they do during the year, may or may not come out of that 100%. Bill, have I got that right?
Yeah. Yeah, generally speaking, the reserve is basically If you can look at it as in a tally, a running tally of operating and capital all combined with your income all combined, and it clusters it all up. And at the end of the financial year, the SWIMS charge, which we take in, if we have X amount of revenue, and then we tally up all the expenditure, including capital, we want to try and break even. If we spend more, then the reserve at the end of the year is adjusted. If we have spent less than what we've collected, then we have to allocate to the reserve and increase our tally to indicate that we now owe the SWIMS system, the SWIMS future outlay increases. So it's just, so to answer the question, it's more of a holistic view, the reserve, than just the expenses.
So through you, Mayor, on this topic of not to do the motion. The SWIMS position would be allocated as an expense and the SWIMS revenue rate would be raised to compensate for that. Has that occurred?
Two separate items, but they're both going to occur.
Yeah, they both have occurred. Yep.
Councillor Arthur?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, the CWMS is run as a separate entity, right, under legislation, and it has to be kept. So this year we've got, $1.1 million coming in. We've got expenses going out, and we've got some more extra CapEx on what we had budgeted for. So at the end of the day, that would make a, maybe a deficit, or probably it will make a deficit. So that deficit would then be reduced off of the thing. So what's the difference?
You're looking at me, councillor.
Like the
While it's
800,000 that's in there now will be reduced for the.
Yeah, councillor. Over here. So it is a company which is carried in our books as a separate book entry company or organisation.
So you may, it's separate accounting. It is
Yeah.
not a company.
Not a
We don't
company,
have
sorry, we
any
use a
council owned or operated
separate entity.
organisation.
But
Yeah.
it is still real money. It's not make believe.
Well, I'm looking for the day when I find unreal money. Yes, it's accounted for. I'm trying to get where you're getting to.
Well, I just can't work out why it is actually in as an expense against this year when it would be whatever. We don't know as of this stage what the 2022-23 CWMS scheme, whether it'll have a slight surplus or.
I think I'm going
deficit or
to
whatever.
wind this up because it's really
Yeah.
digging itself into a spot it doesn't need to. If we have expenses less than income, money will go into the reserve. We have income in, we have more expenses than income, take some from the reserve.
Through you, Mayor, that's correct.
That's, I think, how it works out. Any other questions? There is no other questions. Councillor Peach, you didn't want to speak, Councillor Corman. Councillor Peach can end the debate.
Closed.
Closed. So, councillors, item 3, adoption of the 23-24 budgets there. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? That's carried unanimously. Number 4, adoption of the 23-24 valuation, councillors. Quite like it.
Page 10.
My little page gauge is not working off for me. Is there someone prepared to move item 4? Sorry. Got the sticky papers got the wrong thing. I'm going to go with councillors Rountree and Coleman.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move variation of the recommendation.
When I listen to your variation, councillor.
Point 4, that going into the next rating period, council.
You're on item 4, councillor. I'm trying to work out what point 4 is.
Page 10.
Sorry, I'm one ahead. My apologies.
The one ahead or one behind? One ahead.
Yep.
One ahead, right?
So we're on item number 5, aren't we?
No, 4.
4, right, sorry.
On 4. The one ahead, right up. Councillor Rountree, you want to speak to the motion?
No, I think it's that one's self-explanatory.
Anyone else wants to speak to the evaluation?
I would just hope the valuer general has a holiday now and lays off increasing everyone's values for a while. Go on a break, lady.
He doesn't have a holiday, unfortunately.
She is.
She actually.
Work exercise.
Is there anyone else wants to speak to that motion? There being none, you're closing.
Closed.
Put the motion, all those in favour? Bit tricky. Those against? Gonna put it as carried unanimously. Number 5. Declaration of differential rates and fixed charge. Long recommendation there, councillors. Someone prepared to move that as the recommendation.
Mr. Mayor, this is the one that I.
Yeah, I'm aware of that, but I'm wary that changing this motion in any way might cause something else. That's why I'd like someone to move the motion first.
I'll move it.
Councillor
is.
Bland and then councillor O'Hara are the two. Councillor Bland, you want to speak? to that
No, I'm going to leave it as is and hear what councillor Peach has to say in relation to. Okay.
Councillor O'Hara, you want to speak to it at all? Councillor Peach, do you want to at least give me point 4 or
If I could give you the gist of what I'm seeking.
be more than a just, but go on.
That council undertake a review of the basis of rating for the going forward. Beyond that expressed in the explanation here, to look at the percentage of overall rates paid by each category.
By who?
The percentage of overall rates paid by each rateable category.
So councillor, in the last council, we spent a year and a bit doing a rate review. The challenge I'd have in accepting your amendment is, would that effectively trip off another rate review? I think what you're asking is, do we work within bands or categories per the 9 or whatever categories there is? I think that's.
If I may,
Yeah.
if I may just comment broadly, the intent of this is that if we see that there is a reflection of that. So if we look at it currently, I believe, and please correct me if I'm wrong here, that primary production accounts for about 80%, 60, sorry, percent.
Is the importance of not mixing up the fixed charges with the.
No. Yep. So that's the percentage I'm referring to, that if there is growth in one category, that we have a methodology of ensuring that that growth is accounted for in that category.
Trying to get the gist of what you're saying. Are you saying that if there's massive growth in a number of assessments or valuation in one category,
That the broad percentage allocation to those categories compensates for that? So I'd note in other councils that they have, say, a 70% guideline comes from, that's their rating policy, is that 70% comes primary production. And we seem to get to roughly around that through the way we're going about it. I'm asking for a review going forward to ensure that if we see growth in, say, in townships, that the rate increases, then the percentage, their total share of the rate pool increases accordingly.
I think that to move today forward, I'm not going to accept your amendment. But I think we need to have a discussion about it at the next finance committee, which is full council as us, around what you're aiming for. I understand what you're aiming for, and I would have had these discussions around, well, does this amount of money raised come in with those broad categories? But second part around, if one sector grows over others, I'm probably right today, I don't think I can get the chamber to vote on that because I think is probably more than they could consider in the short time. So what I'd say is that we perhaps you put it up as some form of motion to the next finance committee meeting. Because other concern is it may trip off rating review, which is a different process. And I don't know that I would like to see that in today's agenda or budget. Okay. Anyone else?
This one,
Mhm.
comment, Mr. Mayor.
Comment or
It appears that with our current system, that's one of the biggest multinationals in the world gets another reduction in their rates.
Councillor, as you know, there is exactly nothing any of us can do about it.
Well, according to this, it does, you know, so unfortunately, the
Well, that-
system allows for that. So we should.
It's a
really
state
look
act of
into it.
parliament. So whether I like it or not, or any of us do, exists.
So, Mr. Mayor, point one, could council vary that rate on the dollar?
Yes.
Yes, but I think you would want to consult around that now, and I think we're probably past that point. It is a discussion to have around that particular special category in terms of the capital value versus the money it raises. I'm looking at the rates officer in the distance, and I think we would know the capital value, but they don't actually have to pay rates on that basis. Yeah, exactly. That's why I'm not naming that grouping. Anyone else? Councillor Bland, you're closed.
Consider it closed.
Okay, councillors, there you are at item 5. There's a long recommendation there. I'm putting the motion. All those in favour? Those against? Carried unanimously. Number 6. Council authorisation of rate rebates. That the council adopts the rate rebates as referring to the list attached in respect to the 23-24 budget. Someone prepared to move that way? Councillor Roundtree is the mover.
Goldberg. He's sitting in the dead seat. Yeah, sorry, councillor Coleman had his hand up first, but
I know you can't look everywhere, Mr. Mayor, it's all good.
so either or.
By proving the point of the previous term when Councillor Bland felt she wasn't seen when she was there.
Yeah, but it didn't matter what seat.
I did go to an optometrist just
Oh,
a
well,
few
bright
months ago.
clothes.
Said my eyesight was still all right. Right, is there anyone wishing questions or debate around that recommendation, item 6? Councillor Peach,
Are we allowed to ask specifics here, Mr. Mayor?
I would rather you didn't ask about a specific property, but it's particular specific category of property.
No, so I'm looking through the discretionaries. And
Categories.
sorry, the discretionary category, which is then specific entity properties.
They were the category.
I'm curious on a couple of occasions where there are multiple titles to the same.
Multiple assessments.
Yes, get Leanne to come to the mic and answer your, got the gist of what you work, gist of what you're asking.
So that'll be where there's a tenancy over the land and they actually have like a dual tenancy and they're rated under the occupation. Does that make sense?
Yep. So if I could ask broadly, if there is an entity that is would understandably be on the discretionary, but that premises also has a perhaps something that wouldn't be discretionary on it. How does that?
That would then be area that is non-discretionary would form a further tenancy, which would then be not either rateable or not rateable. So it is purely based on the occupation and the use of that land. So you can have
So
one,
would-
you can have one parcel of land that has multiple occupations, some of it be rateable, some of it be discretionary.
So noting that the discretionaries are all at 100% rebate, if those two conflicting things are on the same assessment, how does that?
I would need to have a
Okay, so-
look at that specifically.
Let me ask this question through, Matt. How are these determined as to whether they are discretionary? What's
That's
the-
some legislative.
Now, these are the discretionary ones, and we're being asked to approve them
Policy.
without breakdown on the discretionary nature of them. That's where I'm asking the question from.
For you, Mayor, I think because the rates notice, rates officer does these as part of, similar to every council in South Australia. There's categories where there's discretion or non-discretion, and there is nothing that falls outside of that. So the discretionary would probably be applied for, is that right, Leanne?
Yeah, the discretionary ones over the years have applied for, they're not applied for every single year. There should be a process that is in place where they're at least reapplying every 3 to 4 years. And then under that determination, it's then brought to council at this time of the year for council to approve.
So through you, Mayor, we could, councillor Peach, you might be asking, could we review the discretionary categories as part of the rate review that you're talking about in the previous agenda? We could do that because the governance officer said to me that they were reviewed a couple of years ago. You wouldn't review them every year, but there may be a trigger point, and so we could write that into the rates review policy.
Does that somewhat answer your question, councillor?
Somewhat.
Okay, anyone else? There being nothing, councillor Roundtree, you'll close.
Close.
The motion is that council adopts the rate rebates as referred to in the listing attached in respect of the 23-24 budget. Close.
No, no seconder, Mayor.
They haven't put the
I've
second
taken the seconder as councillor Coleman. That's what I've written down. Is that?
put up.
Sorry, Ash.
It's spotted.
Oh, we've got it.
Thank you.
Very astute, councillor. We've got a
Right.
fly giving us the willies up here. Nonetheless, I'm putting the motion. All those in favour? Those against, that's carried unanimously. Number 7, declaration of 23-24 Community Wastewater Management Scheme, or SWIMS, as we may know it, service charges. The recommendation, councillor Coleman, you're moving that way.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Very good. Your seconder. Councillor Roundtree. Speak, councillor.
No, thank you.
All right.
No, I'm good, thanks.
Anyone else? There being no one, I'm going to put the motion, well, you'll close.
I'll close, thank you.
I'm going to put the motion. All those in favour? Those against, that's carried unanimously. Number 8. Declaration of 23-24 water supply systems service charges. There's a recommendation there, councillors. Water supply. Councillor Coleman and Bland are the two I'm taking. Is there any discussion, councillor Coleman?
No, thank you.
Anyone else? There being no one else, you'll
I'll
close.
close, thank you.
Put the motion number 8. All those in favour? Against, that's carried unanimously again. Number 9, the declaration of the 23-24 curbside waste management charge. Motion, there's a recommendation, councillor, sorry. There's a mover, councillor O'Hara. There's a seconder, councillor Bland. you want to speak, councillor O'Hara, to it? Not at all. Councillor Bland, you want to speak?
No,
Anyone else want to speak? Councillor Bowman.
Oh, just a comment. Thanks, Mr. Baird. I think it's only increased very little by the look of it. So,
It's increased it all this year.
yeah, I think,
Hopefully that's starting to reflect, some of the long-term, I suppose, savings or cost control put in place by the new regional contract.
yes, we hope.
We
Thank
know we've
you.
got some other issues to resolve there, but at this stage, that's a positive in the current environment.
Thank you.
Anyone else? You'll close. All those in favour? Those against, that's carried unanimously. Number 10, declaration of the regional landscape levies. And councillors, you'll note that we are only one of two councils state that happens to be in two separate boards, and in our case, two separate systems. Sure, our rates officer doesn't enjoy it all. Nonetheless, there's a recommendation there which details both separate board levies. Can someone move that way, please? Councillor Bland is the mover. The seconder. So Roundtree. Councillor Bland, you want to speak to that?
I think it's clear.
Anyone else wish to add anything to that process?
Ask a question.
Yes.
The effective difference per rateable property. Do we have any understanding of that?
Would understand your question better. The effective difference.
So the effective difference, say on a residential property between the two systems, if we actually put it back to a rate of $1 note.
We are simply to collect the money handed on for a very meagre fee, I believe. There you go.
The question has come from the fact that the wording is not that we collect the money and hand it on, but that we reimburse ourselves for the money that we already hand on.
There'll be a reason for that. It is interesting, the difference. You have to get a rate notice from a residential in the northern end of the council to compare it to the towns in the southern end. Being a fixed charge versus a capital rate too. Yeah. Councillor, everyone's done. Councillor Bland closes.
Closed.
So number 10, I'm on. Put the motion. All those in favour? Those against, that's carried unanimously. Number 11, the director has to leave. Said he would be leaving now, so he's gone. 11, payment of rates for the 23-24 financial year. Number 11, there's a motion there that would mean that the rates would be due on the 4th of September, the 4th of December, the 4th of March and the 3rd of June. Councillor Coleman, you want to move?
Yes, thank you.
Councillor O'Hara, I hope you're the seconder. You want to speak at all to it?
Thank you, Mr. Baird. Pretty well status quo, isn't it? As we pretty well similar in previous.
The importance of adopting today is to keep it roughly in that status quo. That's right. Councillor O'Hara. Thank you. Anyone else wish to do anything to the process? Okay, you'll close.
Close, thank you.
So number 11, I put the motion. All those in favour? Those against, that's carried unanimously. Number 12. Rate capping, 23-24 year. There is a recommendation, councillors. Councillors, someone would prefer to move. Councillor O'Hara is the mover, thank you. Is there a seconder? Councillor Bland, you're the seconder. Councillor O'Hara, you want to speak to this at all?
No, I only say that I think 15% is a fair capping. We had talk of 10%, but if we're going to put it up 10%, we can't give everyone a refund. So 15% seems fair to me.
Okay, thank you.
Of the same opinion. That's fine.
Same as the mover. Anyone else wish to enter debate?
Question?
Yes.
I don't have a problem with this, but the way I'm reading this is that that is a automatic rate cap.
No.
The council will fix a maximum increase in the general rate to be charged
Seeking opinion.
Doesn't appear to say on application.
Good point.
It is a good point.
Does sound automatic.
It may cause confusion.
So we, we put a dot point there that says on application.
I personally would like to see it be automatic going forward, but I don't
Clarity.
think that was the intent of what we came to.
So the words that you would like to add to cover this anomaly?
On application.
On application. On application.
Just as an extra dot point.
Yeah, this rate cap, this fifth, they applied on application, only be
Through you, Mayor,
available on application.
I'd actually like to see it stay as it is and that it is an automatic application, but I think we need clarity around that.
Thank you for your clarity. At this stage, I'm looking at the mover and seconder, if they just want to add the dot point that it's on application still.
Well, as the mover, I agree. But I want to stay how it is because it says that the council will impose.
Well, mate, your view is it is through you, Mayor, is automatic.
Automatic.
It's automatic.
So the point that's been made to me is we haven't done the modelling on an automatic application rate cap. So you as the mover aren't prepared to add an additional point that this would be upon application.
I can probably be talking to
No, I'm not trying to, I'm just asking you.
at the moment, Dale, that's how it stands.
That you're happy for a fifth, another dot point to say upon application.
I'm not happy, but yes.
I'm not interested in happiness, I'm interested in results.
I could agree with it.
Right, so I'm taking it, I'm trying to point out to the meeting the administrative issues that would be and the budget figures that we're not sure of that would happen if it was automatic.
I think we probably left it a bit late now. But maybe it's something we should look at for next year.
Future. Councillor Bland, are you in agreement with adding the dot point around upon application?
I would have liked to have seen it automatic. However, I personally, I guess on history, read it as being on application. So that is also my history, knowing that that's what was done in the past. And I missed the point that Councillor Peach has brought up, which I think is relevant. So I would be quite happy for on application to go in, but reviewed as soon as possible at the next finance committee to see what the
Let's
impacts
just
are.
Take this as second part of Councillor Peach's next finance committee discussion. What's the consequence in the future of an automatic versus a application? I think we have some history over the last few years of how many people apply, because it may surprise councillors how many apply versus how many just don't apply. And that, I think
It's in there.
Through you, Mayor, the financial implications are listed at $75,000 subject to the number of applicants. So has that been modelled?
So we basically, remember when we did consultation, we showed you how many people were over the medium, how many were under. We took an educated guess using those figures. If it was an automatic application, it would be more than double the amount that so we haven't modelled around the $150,000 mark.
I get the words of the fourth dot point into the minute, to the recommendation. For everyone's clarity, I've taken the mover and seconder to reluctantly agreed to add the dot point.
We're going to put it up there, man.
We're going to put it up the top where this is,
Well, through you, Mr. Mayor, if it said council will allow for a rate cap of 15% on application.
just give us a minute.
Yep.
So I can have a drink of water. In a minute, we'll get the intent, or as your word is, councillor, the gist. I think we all know where we want to get to, at least today, but I understand where we would like to have a discussion in the future around a version of semi-automatic or automatic rate capping and the consequences to the budget of that.
That need to move in.
I will make sure we put up our rates that are regular, keeping, I mean, not even last week.
So
through-
is that after the 15% count, I'm looking at the mover upon application, is that enough to?
No, through you, Mr. Mayor, it says that we will fix a maximum increase. Doesn't that need to come out?
For you, Mayor. I'm just looking at the rate officer.
Through you, Mayor, I would have thought that should say council will set a rate cap of 15% on application. If we're fixing a maximum increase, that's
No, that has to be. Oh, no, through you, Mayor. That's really just saying that once the rate is fixed for the particular assessment, it's fixed. And then anything over above the 15%, the ratepayer has the discretion to apply for a 15%. That's what that's saying. So you would do, once you get your rate notice, it's fixed. It's not going to change because it's based on evaluation at a point in time. And we don't review that any time during the next 12 months. The wording is a little unusual, but it is a fixed, once you've got your assessment, it's fixed for the year. There is no changes to it.
So the point of that would be any late, not late or continuing changes in valuation that would affect the rate you pay as of
For the financial year.
minutes ago. Adopted the valuation.
but isn't that a separate topic to the topic of rate capping?
So what, through you, Mayor, what it's trying to say, and obviously not well, is that your rates are fixed once we've done the assessment for the financial year, regardless of the valuation changes from then on in, unless you actually apply to the value general and then that maybe change it. But from a council perspective, it's fixed. And then if it's over the 15%, you have the right to apply for the refund of anything over the 15%.
Giving a little bit of time. The yellow one is what the director is suggesting is good.
And I would probably agree that that clarifies it.
Green or the yellow?
Yellow.
Miles is with yellow. CEO was,
Yeah, that's fine.
what's the, so is the mover and the second are happy with yellow? No, it's fine. Anyone else wish to speak to what is now being agreed? Councillor Qualman.
Thank you. Well, thank you to councillor Peach. Because I find it is a bit misleading because people might have thought when they're in this predicament that it was going to be automatic, but now we've defined that and made it clear it's upon application only.
Yep,
It
thank you.
clarifies a lot better. Thank you.
Arthur.
Mr. Mayor, I won't be voting for this. I think a 10% increase is expeditious this year. It will probably be the highest rate increase of any council in the state. And I think to control it at 10% is a necessity because we talk the low social economics of the area. We're in the top 20% in Australia, but we're quite prepared to charge exorbitant rates here. And therefore I cannot vote for this.
Okay. One person speaking against. Anyone else in debate?
Question there. Can we just have the explanation again? I know councillor Peach alluded to, or it was councillor Hara, I think, had said that if we're going to put the rates up by 10%, there's no point offering a 10%, but there is some flexibility there because it will be on the individual's circumstance. It's not, everyone's not going to see exactly 10% on their rates. It will be dependent on their situation, as my understanding is. So
Well,
what, can you just
i-
explain it?
if everyone's valuation had moved up exactly consistently, then you proportion that out exactly with the effect of the fixed charge being fixed, then no one would qualify. It'd be perfect, but it doesn't work like that. Valuations don't move up exactly consistently across the district in any form. And the rate model been modelled to try and give by rating category a roughly 10% increase. So the danger in not having modelled this at all is that we might find that one category, and I suspect I know which one, might all qualify for rate capping, might not be the intent of you today. So if you think about the average, and some people are going to be above and some people below an average, I would have thought if you went to 10%, you would probably get half the assessments that would be qualify automatically or qualify.
Or upon,
That would just be,
upon application?
that would be my mathematics. Miles, please.
I had a very good look at a number of councils a couple of months ago. There's have a 50% cap. Alexandrina has a 50% cap. Some don't have a cap at all. Quite a few have a cap around about 15%. What I think we're probably heading towards is in this, looking at our rating policy, is having a deep next year, and we can use the next few months undertaking that. And noting as well that, you know, any decisions may trigger the requirement for a formal rating review.
Through you, Mayor, bearing in mind then for the last years I've been on council, it has been 10%. Would we not be better off leaving it 10% until we do that review, or is this going to upset the apple cart hugely?
I think well, the answer there is that in the past years when it was 10%, the rises were under 5.
Okay.
You've got a differential there that we maintain.
The purpose of the rate capping is to try and capture the people whose valuations have moved extraordinarily out of the average higher. The rate cap doesn't ask people whose valuations have not moved up compared to everyone else to contribute more. Only caps out the extraordinarily sort of top portion of any one category. I'm still got a motion. If anyone else wants to speak for or against it? Close, councillor. I am going to put item 12 with that slight addition upon application. Councillors, all those in favour? Those against? So that's not carried unanimously. Councillor Arthur voted against that motion, but the other 6 councillors voted for it. So it's carried. Number 13. Rating policy review. Someone move that one, please. Councillor Roundtree. You're a seconder. Need a seconder. Councillor O'Hara. Want to speak, Councillor Roundtree?
No, but I all I'll say is I look forward to when we do our rating policy review in the future.
Point 11, rate capping. There was previously an exclusion bulk handling zone. Just wondering why that's been removed.
I don't think they're looking at the rate officer here.
Through you, Mayor, so the rate capping exemption for bulk handling was removed to ensure that we are rating under the fairness and equity rules around rating and not excluding one category or another.
When we have a councillor, when we have a bit of a discussion around rates fairly soon, we might explain the nuances of the bulk handling category and why it exists.
Mr Mayor, through you to the CEO. the definitions and different, applies differential rates on the basis of rating. Why couldn't we have increased the rate in the dollar for item 10 on that list? As per the motion before. And when I inquired about this some time ago, I was told and we'd have to have a rating review again to be able to do that. But surely we set the rates in the dollar at the meeting like today.
So we'd come back to the distribution of fair and equitable, councillor. We'd want to be careful, given that category applies to only one ratepayer. I think it needs further work. One of the problems with
That
that,
doesn't-
with that category, one of the problems with that category is while it says bulk handling, it actually applies to only one particular thing, and it doesn't really properly reflect everyone else that bulk handles, shall we say.
Mr. Mayor, if we accept this rating policy, it doesn't actually specify in here anyway how you do the rating, strength in the dollar. It is assessed, whereas it valuation methodology, and you work out your rate in the dollar. But previously there was, I don't know if it was in this policy, where the rural rate was worked out as a percentage of the
Total.
yeah, the housing
Or the
rate.
total.
Has that changed or is?
So through you, Mayor, the changes to the policy are in blue in your document. So the policy as it
Yeah, I
stands,
see that.
and the
yeah. But
comments
does,
in blue are the changes to the existing policy. So I'm not sure where you're referring to
what
there,
I'm
councillor
asking
Arthur.
now is, could have we today have accepted, you know, like the rates in the dollar that you have submitted to us that said, oh, no, the commercial should go up by, 2%, for example, and the industrial other by 5% or cents in the dollar? Or is that not able to be done?
Through you, Mayor, it's possible, but at the meeting where we're doing it today, where we've done all the modelling, it's probably too late to do that from a setting of the budget perspective. That's probably something that would need to be discussed in a rating policy, which councillor Peach has referred to.
Yeah, I think we could refer to what councillor was half an hour ago, that do you want to collect a percentage of general rates from each category, or now that the changes that were put in place over the last 3 years are giving us I suppose, a picture of where the percentages lie or not? If that's what you're asking.
Well, yes, many other councils have got a policy where they give, like primary produce only pays 85% or 70% or 40% of the housing rates.
Oh, you
And
mean,
overall
you mean,
revenue.
yeah,
And it
you
gets to
mean,
the stage where we have gone in a very short period of time from probably 52 or 3% of the rates to up to nearly, over 70%.
no, it's
last
less
year.
than. So I know, we've got two separate principles. One is a percentage of total revenue raised per category, or I think of the second one now, I'm getting in my head. Yeah. Because if you're saying that it's always a percentage of the residential or the base rate, that's a different debate, actually. Due to the difference in categories, different in valuations per category. I think it's best picked up in where councillor Peach was before in a finance committee discussion. Be quite honest.
Oh, it will be, yeah.
Okay,
Through you, Mr. Mayor, on page 12 of this entire document, what councillor Arthur just referred to is present in terms of the percentage rates of the base rate. But they aren't actually in the policy itself. So when it says council sets the following rating principles as a guide, where would we, what policy would we find those principles under?
In the rating policy.
Just thought when council, and I wasn't in the position a couple of years ago when council undertook the rating review, but the rating review outcome would be the principles under which you can, work out the split of rates, so you'd be guided by those, I would expect. Would that'd be correct?
We can
Yeah.
circulate that.
Yeah, so but the legal requirement to consult as well, so that's why, every given period of time, let's say it's 3 years, that you can, that you conduct a formal grading review. Normally that involves some, expertise that comes in, to help you with that process, and a significant consultation that then forms your report, guides your rating officer, and approved, endorsed by council, and guides your rating officer until things change again.
So understanding that, wouldn't that information be appropriate in the rating policy? Which is,
Reference that. That would make sense.
At the present moment, our rating system virtually bases around the residential rate. We set a residential rate, and then the primary production rate is set at 85% of that. And then you've got another rate which is set at 145% of that. And then you've got another rate which is set at 285% of that. Now, with the fluctuation in the residential rate, a lot of residents haven't had a rate rise for the last 2 years because they've had the $350 reduction down to 150. So they virtually had $100 and $100 reduction. So they haven't. But when you reduce that pool of money you're getting in, you get it from somewhere else. And that's what's happened. Whereas exponentially, it's, like it's got out of balance a bit, if you know what I mean. Everybody should pay for their share, and that's why do we base it on the residential rate?
I don't know that's quite the case, councillor, but if you remember, the previous council's view was to reduce the burden on residential rates. So without the policy in front of me, I can't really comment any further. I think it's a debate.
question Mayor, that I'm asking is, do we have two different rates policies? We have a rate policy that doesn't contain some of that basic information.
There's a rating strategy and there's a rating policy. So I can circulate the strategy outside, and I can also circulate the outcomes from the last rate review, which went for a period of almost 12 months, I think, in terms of, as the Mayor said, community consultation, backwards and forwards. And that can be done at the will of the chamber again, if that's what you want.
They're both consistent. And the other thing we can do is give you the date when the next do, because I don't think it's too far away.
The other thing. Year basis, could it not?
I don't know.
Surely that's what the members are here to make decisions on that. Surely you don't have to go to go through to the community consultation every time you want to change percentage.
You and I, councillor, have been both around a long time. In the good old days, we would have made those decisions. As you know now, take nearly everything to public consultation.
Well,
Right. I think nothing further going to be gained around this discussion, to be quite honest. I think we understand that we need to have a little bit of a deeper dive into that process. Councillor Roundtree and O'Hara, the mover and the seconder of the recommendation. Are they still happy?
Yes.
Put to motion to be put. Putting motion number 13, rating policy review. We adopt the rating policy as amended. All those in favour? As against, that's carried unanimously. Councillors, I believe, thank you. We have completed the agenda. Just before I close, I very much once again thank the staff for their persistence in this year's budget process. It been fairly hard work. I think it's the second hardest one I've been through, but very much thank them for getting us to this point of adopting a budget.